Hello, welcome back. Today's question and answer session is going to start here in just a minute. I'm just finishing up my lunch. I have had a lot of questions that are similar on SpectraTone Red. So I want to discuss those questions and your questions, whatever questions you guys have, and provide some insight onto what to expect with SpectraTone Red. Now, I'm going to give you guys just a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, to get on here because I know it takes a couple minutes to get on YouTube Live. And for those of you who've never done this before, we do it fairly regularly. So if you follow us on YouTube, you just follow Harrelson Trumpets, then almost always you're going to get a notification that we have a live video coming up or that it's happening right now. And I try to send you guys the link whenever possible. Full disclosure there, it's not exactly easy to do because it doesn't cross over to multiple devices very easily, and it's just logistics. So I do try to warn you guys, if you are on BackerKit and you're following me there, then I will post in the updates the link whenever possible. If not, just make sure to follow me on YouTube. Okay, let's get started. So we already have a question. We'll jump on that one. And then I will start answering other questions that you guys have asked recently. And my Facebook Messenger is filled with questions from you guys. So I'll try to hit on as many of those as possible too. So Greg says, what do the pros like on the titanium versus stainless steel? Well, the pros have not tried the titanium or the stainless steel. So to be fair about this BackerKit campaign or the SpectraTone Red campaign, I sent all of the pro players, and there were the ones that were sent, there were 47 that were sent, and then there were a few that came in and tried. And all of those players were sent different mouthpiece bodies. So they were either sent brass bodies in a lightweight version, or style A, which is medium to medium high efficiency, or a Delrin body, which is low efficiency. And I did that for a couple of reasons. The main reason was I wanted to see a diverse amount of feedback based on different variations rather than sending them the highest efficiency version. So nobody got the high efficiency versions. Of course, my hope was that they'd experience what some of the pros in the shop experienced and what I experienced as well, which is, the playability of SpectraTone Red was through the charts in terms of what we expected it to do, which was be a well-versed mouthpiece in multiple genres, not just in lead, not just in commercial, but really to give it to someone who plays on regular mouthpieces, and it gives them some better range and endurance, and it also gives them that sound that you're looking for when you're playing pop music or commercial or lead or Latin jazz, in many different situations. But this is a great mouthpiece for so many different people playing various genres, and for a lot of you, it might be your favorite mouthpiece you play all the time. So it is not primarily a lead mouthpiece, but it is definitely an excellent lead mouthpiece. The reason I say that it's not designed specifically to be just a lead mouthpiece is because a lot of people expect a lead mouthpiece to be a shallow, high compression, tiny throat type of a design, and this is not that at all. This is in fact something that feels much closer to a standard all-around mouthpiece that really, really shines in the upper register, but it can play all the way down below the staff very easily. So nobody got to try the titanium or the stainless steel, which means we can do a whole nother trial, or we can get more feedback. And what I'm planning on doing is soliciting feedback from all of the backers on BackerKit. So all of you can then give me feedback and hopefully do the same kind of thing we did this time, where we sent out basically a questionnaire saying, hey, do you want to be part of the feedback loop? Essentially you're going to try the mouthpiece and play it, and then hopefully provide written or video or both in terms of feedback. And as you guys have seen in the first video for SpectraTone Red, the one that's the main photo on BackerKit right now, you have seen 6 different players of different, I guess, levels. They're all professional players, and they all gave us some kind of video feedback, a video clip showing us them playing the mouthpiece. And of course, saying things about it. Now, each of those clips was actually a lot longer, and I'll be posting those throughout this next week, all the way through the end of this campaign and even after that. But what I'm really saying is I'd love to get the feedback from you guys when you get the stainless steel or the titanium versions. Now, why would I have not given you those versions? Two reasons. The first is the prototyping isn't complete. I could have just given you what I thought, I would work right now, but I haven't had the time and the energy to focus on the prototyping, in terms of the stainless steel and titanium versions as much as I would like. And that's simply because we just released Rumors and Dreams, and I'm putting a new Rumors and Dreams trumpet together every day. And the three of us, Jen and Christine and I, are around the clock working on that, while of course launching this. And the second reason I didn't do that is because I'm offering the brass version at a lower price. And I want you guys to know that everybody that played, all the pros that played and reviewed SpectraTone Red before you ever heard of it or got to see it, they all had either a brass body or a Delrin body, which is even less efficient. And then you can see their feedback and obviously how positive it was without the high efficiency options. So it's only going to get better. All right, so the next question comes from Warren. Good to hear from you, Warren. It looked like it has hashes leading into the throat, or was that just the illusion of the picture? It does not. And so the mouthpiece itself, the throat is it's integral with the cup. So those two components are all one piece, and there are no unusual looking parts to it. I'll say this, in terms of coming up with a shape, which is surprisingly very different from any other shape we've created. We really worked with pro players who were using mouthpieces that did things that we couldn't find other mouthpieces that would do. And there have only been a few people that have mouthpieces that can really do what SpectraTone Red does. And to describe the design of it, it's almost like a tiny cup that goes into a funnel and then a special throat entrance shape. And, I'll say this, in terms of being someone who's scientific and I experiment with a lot of different design ideas, and sometimes I punch the numbers and try to do the math and understand the physics of how the airstream might, maybe speed up or maybe help the oscillation of your lips so that you can get a higher frequency, increase pressure. The Venturi effect is something that I study quite often, in especially the mouthpiece throat and the cup, and of course within the Venturi of the actual the VGR system, so the beginning of the lead pipe. And the Venturi effect is a huge part of all of this. But not to bore you guys with science, it's not possible for me to try every variation. And I always lean on all of our clients and everyone I know to help me understand and learn and expand our knowledge and our possibilities that we have here. And SpectraTone Red really is a breakthrough that came primarily not from science, but directly from people's experiences with custom-made mouthpieces that are not in production. So yeah, what you saw in the photo must have been, just light reflecting. All of the prototypes, none of them were like finely polished for a perfect brand new finish. That was simply because we were trying to get all 50 of them done and out the door as quick as we could so people could review them. And it's not the normal work we would do, but I'm guessing you probably saw some marks that made you think there was something. What did you call it? Hashes. Yeah. So there aren't any though. All right. Roger says, I was told that the red cup is very shallow. No, that's not true. The red cup is not shallow at all. Is very shallow and not a good choice to go with my Rumors and Dreams advance order, as this mouthpiece is evolving. Your present description is different. No, it's never been a shallow mouthpiece. Nothing has changed in the design of SpectraTone Red, and it has never been a shallow mouthpiece. So if you interpreted that somewhere, I'm not sure how it is. However, I'll say this: within the 5 mm system, we make every depth, so we can make very shallow mouthpieces. But the SpectraTone Red is not. It's just a little bit more shallow than a C cup from, say, Bach or Yamaha or Schilke. Um, it has a very different shape. It has less volume, and the volume is very strategic to create a different kind of tonal color and also to really aid in the upper register, both in range. So some people are experiencing 2 or 3 whole tones. We've have a couple people that have gained a fourth in the upper register, and those people, most of them, were at a G above high C, and now they can pop out a double high C. There have been a few people that could pop out a double high C, and they're at like a D, an E, or an F above that, and that's very encouraging. With that said, there are some people, of course, that their upper range is a C or a D, and they're gaining 2 or 3 notes above that. It's going to be different for everybody. It just depends on your technique and how well we fit the rim to you, and of course how you respond to this new mouthpiece. But it's very encouraging, and it definitely is not shallow. And that's the first thing that I think I've said in every video is it's not a shallow mouthpiece. It is, however, a brighter mouthpiece. So we have SpectraTone series that goes from red all the way to violet. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And that system of colors really should be interpreted as red is the brightest and violet is the darkest, and everything else is somewhere in between. For instance, SpectraTone Green will come out in a few months, and SpectraTone Green is right in the middle. It's right next to yellow. So it might be the great all-around mouthpiece. But just know this, it is not a shallow mouthpiece at all, and it does not feel deep. I'll say that too. It feels very comfortable for most players. Now, if you're a really harsh pressure player who uses a lot of pressure and a very shallow lead mouthpiece, then it's going to take you a little work to get used to this, but you're going to have better range in terms of especially going lower for those people. And you'll also have a better tone. Now, for those of you who are used to playing something like the SpectraTone Yellow or Blue, or say a standard series from any of the major manufacturers that's not really shallow, then this could probably feel really, really good. It feels a little bit like magic, but it clearly isn't. I mean, there are physical reasons that it works the way it does. So, all right, any other questions on that? And actually, you hit on a great question. That was the majority of the Facebook questions I have had are similar to Roger's. In terms of like, hey, is this a shallow throat, and does it have some like really tight compression, or shallow cup and a really tight compression throat? It does not. There is no tight compression throat. Essentially, what's happening here is we're taking a volume of air and we're just creating a standard Venturi effect, which increases the velocity of the air and the pressure, and that makes a higher pitch. And it's very, very simple. I'm not going to release the profile simply because we've worked hard to create this design, and other manufacturers try to take the little drawing profiles that you see on a screen, like on your computer, and then copy them. And they can get somewhat close to copying designs that way. And we've had other designs of ours that have been copied that way. So we're not going to release the actual cross section of it, but when you have it in your hand, you can see what it looks like. Okay, so let me jump over to my Facebook real quick. Just give me a second here. I want to see some of the other questions people have asked me, and then we'll answer those. And if you have more questions, feel free to pop them up there. I have about 20 to 25 more minutes that we can discuss this and answer your questions. All right. Here's one of the questions. If I already have the 5mm system, then why would I ever want to buy SpectraTone Red? Now, the person who asked this, I think the reason they're asking is because they want to understand the difference between 5mm and SpectraTone Red. The thing is, the 5mm system really what it means is a 5-piece modular mouthpiece. So the MM stands for modular mouthpiece. That's why we call it 5mm. It's not 5 millimeters. So the 5mm system was specifically designed to find the custom solution for what you specifically want. So if you walked into Harrelson Trumpets in Denver, Colorado, and you said, Jason or Christine, hey, I want to set up a mouthpiece that plays, similar to the rim I've been on, or there's this other rim that I played that got damaged, or I don't have it anymore. And I also wanted to create this certain specific tonal quality and projection, and I wanted to fit with this instrument. The 5mm system was designed so that you can create any mouthpiece to fit any horn and any player and give them exactly what they want. It's a very customized solution. It's also quite expensive because it's not inexpensive to make all the different variations of components. Nothing's mass produced. Everything's made one at a time, and we stock thousands and thousands of variations, so we can pretty much set you up with something that's going to really blow your mind, within a few minutes to an hour. Um, with that said, SpectraTone is actually an offshoot of 5mm. So SpectraTone is made from the 5mm components, except we colored the different varieties of them. So we came out with yellow first, which was 2 years ago, and I developed a very special excuse me. I developed a very special um, set of components that would really work with most players to create what we would call the yellow tonal sound, which is medium bright. And the way we did that was, I should say, the reason we did it is so that you wouldn't have to go through the 5mm system. You wouldn't have to be custom fit. The way we did it is we created a specific cup depth and size or shape, and then a specific throat with various sizes you could choose from, and then a specific back bore. And you had to choose the rim diameter and shape, and then you would choose that, and we would pick all the underpart pieces that fit with it. And if you said, I want more or less airflow, or I want to have a couple variations, we give you a couple different diameters of throats. With blue, we did the same exact thing, but we introduced some more rim variations because you guys asked for more cushion rims at the time. And now with red, we're introducing a new rim that's called the red rim. And it's actually the H series rim, which is named after me because it was my personal rim. It's the one that I use daily. And it has a larger inner radius that goes into the cup, which gives me more flexibility. The downside to it is it feels bigger than the actual size, the actual number on it. The upside is that you can easily slip between really low notes and up to double high C or higher because it gives your lips more freedom to move the aperture. So if you're really good at aperture control, the new Red Series rim might be the one for you. So essentially, what I'm saying with all of this is that to answer that question before, if you already have a 5mm, why would you want a SpectraTone Red? Well, they aren't the same thing. In fact, they're most likely not even close to each other because we've never made anything in the 5mm system that is like the SpectraTone Red. And the key components are the cup, the throat, and the backbore. Now, I'll tell you, the backbore is a 2131. So if you already have one of those, then you already have one. You would get two. You would have another one if you bought SpectraTone Red. Not the end of the world, but SpectraTone Red is going to ship with some very specific components to keep the cost down. Because as you see, we're offering the brass version at half price, and the stainless steel and titanium versions we're really not making any money on because it's so expensive to make those. But in March, when we release it to the public, then there will be some profit margin there, and the idea is to get enough of them out there and enough of you talking about it. Then in March, when we do the public release, people will pay more for them and we'll actually make a profit, which is important as a business. So why would you want SpectraTone Red? Essentially because it will do everything that we just talked about. If you are playing a standard type mouthpiece and you want better range and better endurance, more stamina, and you want that more punchy, brighter sound that's great for so many different situations. It's not perfect for everything, but it's good for a lot of things. Then you probably want a SpectraTone Red. Could you buy the cup and throat and backbore for your 5mm system? Absolutely, but you're going to have to wait until we have the public release in mid-March, which is a full month after we start shipping SpectraTone Red from the backer kit. And you also are going to pay almost the same price because the regular price of the throat and the backbore, I'm sorry, the cup, the throat, and the backbore is, I'm trying to remember what the actual price is, but I think it's in the 170 range for those two components. And if you just backer kit the Backer kit SpectraTone Red, you would get the whole set in brass for $200. Also, if you want the titanium or stainless steel high efficiency versions, which will be lighter than other versions that we've had in the past in brass, but more efficient, then you are going to pay a lot more for those in March. And some of them may not be available. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work yet. All right, other questions. Warren says, there is a manufacturer that makes a screen in the throat. Also, another is promoting a wooden two-piece. Okay, so the wooden two-piece mouthpieces have been around for hundreds of years. And I know most of you don't realize that, but the first trumpet mouthpieces were actually made out of wood. It used to be that trumpet players would carve them out of wood. But aside from that, Canstel actually had huge success making wooden mouthpieces. And they were two parts, just like the, is it Lotus now that has, they kind of like are saying they're reinventing the wood idea. It is the oldest idea out there, is a two-piece mouthpiece where the top is wood and the bottom that connects to the receiver is metal. That is actually the oldest design that's ever been made. But kudos for anyone who can market new things and make money. Basically, if you have a wood top and a metal bottom, then it's going to dampen a lot of the vibrations. And it essentially is going to do it in a way that doesn't transmit them, but instead it absorbs the vibrations. And when that happens, then those mouthpieces don't project as much. And I'm not saying anything bad about any of those mouthpieces because I've made them too. But at the end of the day, if you use something like Delrin or a soft material that's not dense in the rim and the cup, in the top part of the mouthpiece, then it is going to require more effort to play. It also has the potential to remove some of the upper overtones. And the screen in the throat. Warren, could you tell me who's doing that one so I can look it up? I don't think I've seen that. It sounds interesting. I have some experimental mouthpiece trumpet components where there's a screen in the throat or just past the throat and a hole, and it redirects the air directly out of the mouthpiece and out of the horn, so the airflow comes out. And that experiment is just to demonstrate and prove that the airflow, like people talk about fluid dynamics through the instrument, is not important. Really, what's important is how the standing wave travels. But a lot of people get hung up on this idea that the airflow has to have a very smooth passage throughout the instrument. And in fact, you can even remove all the flowing air out of the instrument, have it direct straight out the mouthpiece, and it'll still play like normal, unless you have an antinode where that hole is. So I do have a screen for that purpose, but I've never seen a screen in a mouthpiece other ways. So that'd be interesting for me to see, and also to hear why it's being done. All right, so yeah, Roger, I'm glad you tuned in as well. Yeah, I think a lot of people have this idea that if I'm saying that it's great for lead and commercial work, that it's shallow, and it's not a shallow mouthpiece. Carlos, yeah, you're very welcome. Are all the parts titanium? They are not. So if you look closely at the descriptions, essentially the way that the body works is that the body is still a brass body, but it's a very thin brass body that holds everything together. And over top of that is a titanium, basically another component that's essentially it's fit on there very tight. And over top of that is a nylon part. And the nylon was there primarily for the structural design and also to be aesthetically pleasing. Because when we do all the titanium and we try to color anodize it, then the whole thing turns red or green or purple, and you don't have to have it anodized. We may not even offer that, but I wanted to try it this way. So if you look at the renderings, you'll see that there's a dark section, and then there's these ribbed titanium or steel sections over top of it, and that was primarily to create contrast. But the whole titanium sleeve fits very tightly over top of the brass, and essentially that is the titanium component. I would love to make an entire body out of full titanium that is using additive manufacturing. However, there's major issues with that, and aerospace companies and medical companies and automotive and like F1 racing tries to use these things. The same issues exist in all of the different applications, which is when you create an additive part, which is essentially, I'll release videos on this soon. I meant to release them a couple days ago, but we've had a lot coming up. But essentially, you've got a powder bed. It's literally a bed in a machine that's filled with titanium powder. That's so fine you can inhale it and it could kill you. Like you have to wear a full bodysuit to work with this. And because if you were to sneeze, you could literally end your life. It's very reactive and you can't get it out of your body when it's in there. But once it has been fused together, either with laser sintering or ion beams, whatever technique is used to do this, then it becomes a solid. However, the very fine edges of it are never perfectly smooth, which means it's not well suited for threads. And the 5mm system is completely threaded. So I had the idea of printing the whole thing out of titanium and then rethreading it in the lathe manually. And the issue was the rethreading wasn't actually that difficult. The issue was it cost too much money. It costs so much money to print that much titanium that I'd have to charge $200 to $300 more, even on this backer kit campaign. And then because it was so cost prohibitive, we said, well, let's just not do that. Now, maybe in the future, we can do something like that, but it will be much more work to create a full titanium body that has been remachined with the proper threads and the bore size for the throat. Because the tolerances on all those dimensions are around 1,000th of an inch. All right. Hopefully that answered your question. Is there other SpectraTone Red titanium bodies available? So what we're going to do, the answer is there will be. However, they'll be very limited. What we're going to do is, as this campaign progresses, and remember it ends in I don't know, 9 days or something. I made it very short. It's only 14 days. As it gets closer to the end, I'll be developing and printing more variations and asking you guys for your feedback. And everyone who backs it will get to vote on the final design of SpectraTone Red's titanium and stainless steel bodies. Now, we may choose to make the steel body a slightly different design than the titanium. It's up to you guys. So then you'd have two different actual body designs to choose from. And in doing the prototyping, I will most likely print a bunch of designs that I don't even offer, that you can't even vote on. So I want to have 3 different body styles you can vote on. They all look similar. The only difference is the lattice structure inside the ribs or the fins on the outside. The lattice structure will be different on each of the 3 variations. And that's because the topology design, creating those lattice structures, is the key to making this lightweight and more efficient. So I'll explain that more in the next video. Like I said, I meant to have released that video already. It's just we've had too many things come up the last few days for me to get it finished. But probably by Tuesday, we'll have that video live on YouTube, and I'll link to it in the backer kit so you guys can understand more about these lattice structures and the topology design kind of approach to doing this, because it's something that is used in spaceships. It's something that's used in things that have to be very efficient and lightweight and extremely strong, and they can be trumpets are the perfect application. So all right, we've got lots of other comments. Hopefully that answers your questions. And what I was going to say is, in the pledge manager in early January, when we send the pledge manager out, I'll most likely take the extra stainless steel and titanium and maybe even other material bodies that I've made and offer them. There may only be 1 or 2 of each, and those could be add-ons for you guys. They won't be inexpensive. They're probably going to be like $150 each, I'm guessing. But if you want something extremely unique, that'll be the only time you can get the other ones. What rim shape of the SpectraTone mouthpiece is better for a high point that is lower on the teeth? Okay, so if your high point is down here, then if you have a pronounced high point, like one that really stands out more than normal, if you've watched my high point videos on YouTube, then you either know or you don't know. Then if you have a pretty decent high point and you don't have a problem with mouthpiece pressure cutting off the blood flow on your upper lip, most likely the new Red Series rim is going to be the best fit for you if you want maximum flexibility. If that high point is very subtle, and mine is very subtle, then You have to have more aperture control. In other words, you have to have the ability to change your aperture without adding a lot of mouthpiece pressure to play higher and lower. If you're good at that, um, then I would say you could definitely use the H series rim, the SpectraTone Red rim, and you'll see that in the Pledge Manager when you get that in January. And if you find that you are a pressure player using more pressure, then I would recommend the W rim. But to answer that question more thoroughly, if your high point is really low, as long as your mouthpiece isn't too high, so it's actually the rim is actually touching on that high point and you have more space on here, then you could play on a bigger diameter mouthpiece. But technically speaking, your rim is typically going to be smaller if your high point is lower on your upper lip. And that's because you want the rim to touch it, but you don't want a giant mouthpiece unless you have a good reason for that. And my mouthpiece feels like a 2C. And originally I used to play on like a 2C type rim. It was shaped a little bit like a Monette rim, but it was a 2C type diameter. Over the years, that evolved into what is now the red rim, the SpectraTone Red rim. And you watch other videos and see how we came up with releasing that. I wasn't going to release it, but so many people liked it that we released it. It worked for me, and I thought it was just for me only. And it turns out other people have that same kind of situation. So to really answer that question, I play on a smaller rim diameter than normal, but it feels like my 2C because it has a bigger radius going into the cup. So my diameter is a 594. That's in thousandths of an inch. So in Harrelson, SpectraTone, and 5mm numbers, our numbers do not match up anywhere near any other numbers out there. So if you see a brand that says, yeah, this is a 640 diameter, in Harrelson, that would be a 680. So way, way bigger. So a 594 is actually closer to about a 630. And it with that round rim, it actually feels even bigger than that, but it doesn't really affect my endurance. So to answer your question, because your question really is, hey, which rim should I choose, right? That's why you're asking this. We can discuss it either on the phone or through email, and you will receive the Pledge Manager in early January that will say a couple things. It'll say, do you know which rim you need because you're familiar with 5mm and SpectraTone? Yes. If you click yes, you can put in the rim you want based on the options we offer. And if you're unsure, which I think a lot of you are going to be unsure, then you could say, well, I play on a GR whatever, or I play on a Bob Reeves something, or a Lotus, whatever it might be. And if and then I'll ask you a few questions. Do you know anything about your high points? Are you having endurance issues? Do you have any flexibility or slotting or even tone color issues? And if you do, then we may set up a 5-minute discussion to make sure we get this right for you. Or your answers may provide, your answers to those questions may provide enough information that we can choose the right mouthpiece rim for you. But we're here to do that. We fit, thousands and thousands of people with rims, and we work really hard to get that right. The thing you want to do though is answer the question as clearly as possible. Because if you go on a rant about how you used to play on all these mouthpieces, but that information is irrelevant to what you want, we could interpret it as that's what you want. So if you're clear and succinct with your information and your answers, we can nail it. If you give us a lot of information, we're probably going to have to set up a phone call, which is fine. It's not a problem. But if we sell 500 of these mouthpieces and we have 500 phone calls, then the ones that will ship first are the ones that were easy, because that's just how it works, right? All right. So you may delay your order if your rim selection is more complex. However, you want to get the right rim, so that's okay too. All right. Next question. I'm on the fence about the red because I really don't want to change my rim. Oh, you don't have to. I'm really happy with the 650W. When I use the yellow, I use it with this rim. The semi-flat it came with was not comfortable. You definitely do not have to choose a different rim. A lot of people say, well, can't I just buy the other parts and save money? You can't. And essentially you can't, because the only way we can really release these and make it as simple system where we can deliver them quickly and at the right price, or the half price, um, is to do them all very much the same. As soon as we have, you know, 20% of the orders flagged with unusual different parts that we don't normally offer, or even like, hey, I want to reduce the price for not having a rim, then that makes the process much more complicated, and it can literally take us twice as long to deliver the same number of mouthpieces. So what I would say for you is that you just choose a 650W. If that's what you're playing on, is that what you said? Yeah, choose the 650W again. You'll have two of them. There's nothing wrong with that. What if one gets damaged someday? You'll have a backup. Or maybe you want to have two mouthpiece setups with the same rim. Just do that. It's going to be much more cost effective because, a rim I think is $95, and that's a huge amount of money that you're getting some of these components essentially for free, when you take advantage of the backer kit deal. So next question: will the stainless be polished or brushed finish? It will not be either. You can actually polish or brush the finish yourself, and we may or may not offer that someday. But because it is an additive manufacturing process, then the renderings, I tried to render the actual design, like the texture, as accurately as possible. And I spent time actually looking at the actual parts and holding them up to the screen to see, okay, is this the kind of surface we're getting? And essentially, in those renderings and in the actual parts that you'll see, what happens is the little tiny pieces of material, like of titanium or stainless steel, when they're being sintered, like 5 or 6 of them get kind of melted together into one little tiny spot. And it becomes very dense, but the very final surface, the last layer, is not perfectly smooth. And the only way to make them perfectly smooth would be to use some kind of physical abrasion. And we're not going to spend the time doing that because it actually looks really cool, and there's no reason that we need to polish or brush them. But you could actually put it on a buffing wheel or take some sandpaper to it and you could buff it up. Good question. All right, I'm intrigued by the titanium though. Nelson. Oh yeah, I forgot that was your username. Okay, so yeah, the titanium. Here's the thing. I wasn't going to offer the titanium, and I talked to Jen about it, and I said, I think we should just release this in brass and stainless steel. And she was like, yeah, I agree. But as I was going through it and I was getting, starting to print prototypes and things, and we started playing with titanium parts, we saw like the colors were very different. The titanium actually turned out darker than the stainless steel, and also we can color anodize the titanium, and we can flame torch anodize the steel. And we haven't done that yet, but we plan on trying it. And if it turns out really cool, maybe even offering it down the road. But here's what I have to say: the titanium is almost half the weight of the steel, and that alone is so cool. Like when you pick it up, when you hold the two, and you're like, wait a minute, this one's like half the weight, but structurally and in terms of efficiency, it's the same as the stainless steel. That's why titanium has that. It's a buzzword, right? That's why it has this appeal and this allure. Is it's just really cool to have a metal that's so incredibly strong, and you could literally like throw it on the ground. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could, and it's probably not going to dent or ding really. And same with the steel. It's not really. I mean, unless you hit it on like hard concrete, it's probably not even going to leave a mark. But if you threw it on the floor, like in your house or on a hardwood, or even our coated floor in the shop, and the parts don't even show marks. But it's so cool to think that you could have this titanium body that's high efficiency. So I would say this: titanium just has amazing cool factor. Um, that's it. There's no other reason to get titanium other than it's lighter and it's got that cool factor. And I might start color anodizing them. So it's fun to talk to you guys about this stuff because I talked to Jen about it. She's kind of like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," but she doesn't get excited like I do. It's just I can't wait to see all the options that we create in this. Okay, so Scott, you're going to Denver in the second week of January. Can I stop by the shop to test drive the rims? Of course, anyone can. All of you can come in and, well, not all of you, but if you can make it here, you're welcome to come test drive the rims. And if you want to figure out which rim is going to fit you before delivery, then I highly recommend it. Just make sure to call us and make an appointment. Walk-ins are a lot of times difficult for us to work with. Not that we wouldn't, but we have to drop everything to do it, and it might delay somebody's order. All right. You're welcome, Nelson. I'm glad you asked that question. Brian, so the finish may be similar to the acoustic armor. Hmm, the finish would be similar to, well, shoot, I'm in my home studio and I don't have one here, but let me see if I have something that has been sintered so you can see. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of tore my studio apart and I have to put things back together, but I'll say this, the finish is going to be similar to the renderings. So if you look at the renderings, it's going to look like that. And essentially, it would look just the surface is just a little bit grainy. If you've seen some of the other parts that I've printed out of nylon, it'll look similar to that too. Like some of you have seen the bell crooks and tuning slides that I've made for the upcoming Muse, the lightweight Muse, and the lightweight G4 Series Summit. Have you seen those? They're similar, only they're metal. And the momentum spinning top is going to be released in about a week. And you'll see lots more of the detail in those tops because they're made with the exact same machines and the same technology. So you'll get to see that. It's not really like acoustic armor though. I'm running 3.5 mm's right now, plus an artist rim. Going for it. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you being part of this. And for someone who owns 3.5 mm mouthpieces, I'm sure you're excited. And at the same time, you're like, should I be doing this? I would say yes. I mean, at least get in on the $200 level. But this campaign has two things going for it: SpectraTone Red components. I mean, I'm very biased because I make these parts, but I'm also biased because I'm a trumpet player and I've spent so long trying to create different types of equipment that fit different genres. And when I was a true lead player, and I wasn't the best lead player in the world by any means, but when I did play lead regularly, I wish I would have had SpectraTone Red because it would have made my life so much easier. Because for me, it wasn't difficult to play the high notes. It was difficult for me to have the equipment that would create the right tonal color when I played those high notes in the situations where they were called for. I always sounded too big and too warm on lead. And the reason I did is because I couldn't play on a real shallow, high compression mouthpiece because those don't fit me at all. So I wish I would have had this. But yeah, if you're going for the SpectraTone Red and you already have the 5 mm system, I would say that's the first reason is because Red really does have some major advantages. The second reason is because this is the first time you're really going to have the option of having one of these hybrid designs that are high efficiency and the cool factor is really high as well, and they're lighter in weight. So like that's a lot of things, but basically the new design and the incorporating the new technology. So it's a lot there. All right, Scott says, do you anodize titanium the same method as aluminum? No, we do not. Titanium is anodized with an electrical process. So it may seem similar, but there's not a coating that there's not a dye that's going into the solution to create the oxide coating. In fact, what's happening is the oxidation ratio based on the voltage is creating the color. And essentially, we could take a titanium body and put it in the solution and gradually pull it out while adjusting the voltage meter, and it will be a rainbow. And you can go back and forth with it. And I have friends who do this regularly with custom knives and other products, and it's really cool to see how that works and how that happens. And I'm on the verge of releasing a whole series of custom pocket knives that will be laser sintered titanium. And then also many other products. So if you follow us on Kickstarter, you're going to see those products pop up, just like this, but the momentum spinning top. But they will be color anodized in those. I'm not sure if we'll anodize the colors on the mouthpieces, but I sure hope so because I think it'd be really fun. If you don't offer anodization, we could potentially anodize our own parts. Yeah, and I'm playing with it as the idea of making the body and it's already in assembly. So it's got the brass and then the titanium slides over it. It's a very tight fit. And then the nylon and then the nut. All those things make it work. I'm playing with the idea of making it just loose enough to where you can pull it apart and anodize the parts and put them back, or you could brush them or finish them or do whatever you want, or maybe even interchange them. I haven't decided yet, so we'll just see the logistics. All right, and Scott also says I have 2 bodies, but enough parts to make 5 or 6 if I had the bodies. Yeah, this is the time to pick it up, because essentially this campaign, no matter which one of the variations you choose, it's not far off from just buying a new body. So because the prices are incredibly low, and I know I say that again and again, but that's the truth. We like to offer them at a low price for the early adopters. So that's all the time I have today. Thank you guys for asking great questions. I'm really excited about SpectraTone Red. If we get up to $100,000, then I'm probably going to offer everybody some really cool incentives. Like, if we make it to that number, I don't know if we will, but the only way we could even come close is if you guys tell your friends and your colleagues and you spread the word. We could spend like tens of thousands of dollars on ads to try to get this out everywhere. We don't. We have minimal ads on Facebook and on YouTube to get people just to watch the main videos. But our goal is to hopefully sell about $100,000 worth, which we estimate to be about 350 mouthpieces. And if you guys want to see some cool incentives, and we could discuss what those are going to be, then all of the backers could vote on what those would be. And it could be it could be all kinds of things. It could be possibly the option to have your mouthpiece engraved, or maybe we introduce a new material, or maybe we actually introduce the option to have them anodized colored or flame colored. There are so many things. So thank you guys for joining me. I do have to go now. Mike, it's good to see you. John, it's good to see you. Yeah, Mike, I'm glad you got to stop by the shop. And yeah, and that you ordered a Rumors and Dreams. So congratulations. And for all the guys and ladies who are out there who ordered Rumors and Dreams, we are working through them diligently. We've had a few setbacks that you will read about if you follow my blog. Nothing major. It's just been personal things that have been difficult for us. So yeah, thank you all for joining us today. And we'll do another one of these probably in a couple days. I'm going to try to keep the live question and answer events going on as often as possible during this campaign, and just keep the momentum up, because I'm really excited. I think we're approaching $30,000. That's massive for a campaign that's only a few days old, especially for something like Trumpet mouthpieces, because like most of the campaigns you see on these things are like games or pens or something for your iPhone, like something that millions of people buy, and this is just Trumpet stuff. So thank you guys, and be sure to share it and tell other people, and share your experiences, and watch the videos that are coming. So, and yes, thanks, Scott. I'll tell Jolene you said hi, and I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.